Greetings of peace and blessings upon everybody here. We are going to be discussing on our DIVAAN ISHQ live this week. We're going to continue the topic of boundaries. And without even claiming, we know the subject well or being well versed in it, this is what we're going to be exploring together as a collective. Lisa, you want to say anything on that?
Well, you already mentioned we're going to continue on the subject. So yeah, we did discuss boundaries last session already, but felt that it's such a big topic, so it could definitely be discussed a bit more in depth still and through different angles, I guess.
So we want to first get into what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word boundaries? What does that mean to you?
It means no.
How about you, Mehtab?
It means no. And no, not always no. Sometimes you don't have you can't say no all the time. It's knowing within yourself first that, okay, it's a no and how to cope with that situation. Right now, I am also dealing with one situation. I don't know. I'm not able to resolve, but I have found one line in my head. But I'm still thinking because we have is it ego based? I mean, it's taking me months now, but I'm thinking, is it ego based? Or then you said when we think about boundaries, there's professional arena and then there's spiritual arena, but two things have to be kept side by side. So I was also thinking to ask this question, but I think it's ego as well. It's weird. I'm dealing with that. So I think boundaries, it has to be learned.
I think that's very key what you said, the last part where you said they have to be learned. And yeah, so when we experience certain things, then we realize, the need for boundaries, perhaps. Usually boundaries are indicating towards the need for boundaries, not necessarily the other way around, but that's not also true. And that's what we're here to do, to discuss, what they mean for us. Because a lot of the time in healing work, realizations come to surface when we realize that, perhaps we relax on boundaries and then therefore we had to experience something unpleasant or what could have been avoided. And then it goes back to, was anyone crossing your boundaries, or was it about you not setting your boundaries and then allowing anything and everything to come your way? And therefore, are boundaries necessary? And if so, do we give it enough thought, in the various relationship dynamics we have within, let's say, our loved ones? It could be our children, it could be our teachers, it could be friends, I don't know, community members, public, and so on and so forth. And how, basically, yeah, and that's basically what's coming to me. I can go into some of the categories that we could possibly discuss, and but I'll let you, Louisa, say something. I'm just going to head over and just grab a book.
I think I was talking quite a lot last session, but I hope without repeating myself, I mean, they have to be learned. I think what Mehtab said is actually, I'm also thinking about it in a way that when you're born into this world, then you don't have boundaries in the sense that you're so open to everything. And like, there are no patterns or habits or experiences that kind of form you into saying, like, I don't want that, or I want this. Of course, you're driven to eat and, safety and all of that, but otherwise it's not like you have boundaries. And then as you go about life, you start setting these rules for how you want your life to be. And I guess I'm just like reflecting on, I guess there is some sort of balance between having an openness towards what happens and like not having, what is it called, prejudice towards what life will bring. And then also equally having some sort of direction. And I think that's what boundaries to me in its best, or at its best, is about, having a sense of purpose or direction, and the boundaries being there to kind of assist that, so that I don't just like wake up in the day and then I just start doing something totally random that is not aligned with what I feel I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
So boundaries have also has something to do with our personal alignment as well. Can you just reflect on that more?
Well, I'm thinking like, because personally, for example, I know myself, I can get excited about like a million things. And there's barely anything in this world that wouldn't be interesting if I actually gave it time and energy. There's not a person that wouldn't be interesting to get to know if you really got to a point where you can see like who they are. And there's like basically no task that wouldn't be worthwhile doing if you really got to the essence of it. So I could easily just like literally walk around, doing, I don't know, doing anything. And I've done that many years. Like, I've tried so many things. And then I just noticed that there are, out of all these things that are potentially like, they're great, then there are a few things that are like outstandingly somehow meaningful to me. And then if I don't kind of protect those things, then I could just do whatever, basically. Maybe that's also, I don't even know. Is it just like the ego saying we should have some particular purpose or whatever, or even be with special people? But I just know that for me, I can get lost in doing things that are not what I feel is actually where I'm maybe optimally used, because I find it interesting, or because I can adapt to situations or people, and even, like be a chameleon and fit in certain, groups or professions. So that's maybe what I'm meaning. Like, there are a lot of people that are great to hang out with, and there are a lot of things I could do in a like good way. But then there are those few things that are like, yes. And if I don't protect those, then I could just like let that float into the sand.
I would say after receiving like what you guys are saying, I would say my main thing with boundaries is, I think Louisa said, setting up rules on how you want life to be. So I don't know how to set a boundary in where I keep doing what I do and don't stop what I'm doing for someone else. And I put someone else's need before mine every single time. Even if I have something, I just like belittle my own need And then I'm saying like, it's okay. But guess what? Almost every time I'm doing something where I'm relaxed, I relax. And with my boundary, I am upset later. I am so mad at myself, at the person. That the whole thing is like, I should have just, you know, did what was best for me in the moment instead of trying to do what's best for the other person.
What do you mean when you say, when you do something for yourself and then you're upset? What do you mean by
Well,
that?
I meant, I get upset. No, I get upset when I'm relaxed on my boundary. Later, I end up upset because I'm either too tough or too nice. So you get 0 or you're getting everything. So it's my fault that I was relaxed at first. And it's like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But it's like, you did it. And it's like, I should have just been strong in my boundaries at the beginning, you know?
Exactly. And
I really recognize that.
Can we be strong, or can we create these boundaries if we don't know what our boundaries are?
Yeah.
You know, walking into a relationship dynamic with somebody, even if it's like a business you're starting with somebody, you know, not having your boundaries may end up, you know, causing an entire collapse on an amazing business model or an idea that you guys had, or that, you know, one has, because of the boundaries or lack of boundaries. So the purpose of this particular our session today is basically to kind of mentally explore the you know, the concept. Obviously we can't do a deep dive in 1.5 hours, but it's something to contemplate upon and really ask ourselves, you know, what are we doing about it? And maybe a lot of the pain and hurt, or just the lack of alignment, is because, you know, receiving a call and somebody wants to meet up and you don't even care, and you're just on the go. You're like, okay, I'm meeting you, and you're disregarding everything. Yeah, so boundaries.
But I'm thinking still in connection to what both of you said, and Alicia, you mentioned you need to know your boundaries to set your boundaries. Yeah, but how do you know your boundaries? Because I'm thinking like, if the boundaries are there to protect something, one could envision it as that which is to be protected. You know, in old times, there were like castles or fortresses and they had, you know, walls around them. So I'm thinking like what we try to protect, that's the castle. And the boundaries are the walls to the castle. But then how can we know how to set the boundaries if we don't know what we want to protect? So I think that's the, you know, most essential thing, because if I don't know if I value my own time more than I value social relationships, how do I know if I should say no when my friend calls me up? But if I know, to me, for example, I've made a deal with myself, I want to have 1 hour of alone time every day, no matter what, then I would know, can I meet this person or can I not? But if I don't know that, then like, am I just going to make up a boundary? And for what? So it has to serve me to be, you know, purposeful. So I think that's the same in a business or a relationship or anything. Like, what is it that's the most essential part of my life? What are those values and those things I want to prioritize?
Makes sense. I'm just going to go over a few items that we are just going to touch upon or listen. And then we're going to do a penning exercise. And then from there, we can go into, you know, the discussion part of it and so forth. Just a few points. Even though we talk about boundaries in relationship to other people, in some ways, boundaries are really about our relationship with ourselves. Boundaries help us honor our needs, goals, feelings, and values. They can be physical, emotional, even digital. The various sort of boundaries that we can maybe think about. And during this month, pen about as they arise, or maybe we can look into and explore past experiences that still trouble us because of not having boundaries, and hopefully come to terms with that through penning, and maybe extract something that we haven't really given a thought or haven't sat with it enough. So, okay, we have physical boundaries. How does that relate to, what we choose to physically be available or give of ourselves to others? And obviously, based on the dynamics or the actual relationship, that's something we need to think about. Emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries, intellectual boundaries, financial boundaries, our time boundaries, not just giving our time, but how much time are we taking of others? Our ideas on being entitled to accessing people's time, or our ideas on, how much of ourselves can we make available at the cost of maybe the time we need for ourselves. Then also exposure boundaries meaning on the physical self, how much of yourself do you have boundaries on, how much of yourself you wish to be seen, maybe in the public eye, or maybe among people. We haven't given it a thought, then that's something maybe we want to discuss. Boundaries in our belief. Do we have boundaries to a point where we're very open to accepting everything, or do we actually put up a wall when we're meeting people of different faiths or spiritual background, ideas and so forth? And that's something we may want to discuss, because a lot of the times, to guard ourselves and our beliefs, we put up such boundaries that we make ourselves not very relatable and accessible to people of other faiths and backgrounds and beliefs, because our boundaries are way up there and we're very closed off. That's something to think about. Boundaries in sacred space. Boundaries in workspace or your workplace. Boundaries in regards to your time. Yeah, that's just a bit for now. And do you have a particular poem that you have ready? Okay. So if we can
if I could just say real
Yeah.
quick, exactly, because right now I told you I might get a phone call, and then I did get the phone call, but the boundaries was, I am doing something right now that is for me, and I cannot talk right now because this is my time boundary and all that right now. So, yay.
Exactly. Even Mahtab, she made it very clear, she said, I am having guests come over, and just a heads up that I want to attend and I'm going to do my best, but at the same time, if need be, I need to step out. She made that kind of clear. So she, I don't know if what you've done in regards to boundaries, but you clearly communicated, and that itself goes back into boundaries, because when we don't clearly communicate, then we're just leaving people in the dark. And that's another thing. There's a lot of people pleasers out there, and they get themselves in trouble, not because they're just maybe too kind, like you said, or they just don't have boundaries, and they're going to just let everyone walk over them, and they're okay with that. But at the end, they suffer. Yeah. And I had a situation today too. Maybe we can just, be very honest about, like you just mentioned something that, made me think, hey, why don't I just share something? Today, I was supposed to go for a doctor's appointment, and it's about an hour and something away. But yesterday, I was out in Medina for the whole day. It was a day trip. And honestly, I was exhausted. And today, what I had planned was that I'm going to go to my appointment. Then I had 2 meetings set up with 2 individuals. I probably may not be able to meet if I don't do it today. But my body was like, you're done. And then I knew I had this call today too, which is a priority because I'm committed to that. So then I had to kind of juggle it all out, emotions, could I cancel that appointment? Yes. It wasn't like, I'm done if I can't. So I had to, I listened to what my body was saying. And I just, thought, let me do what is best. Cancel the appointment, let the friends know, and I can definitely work something out on another day. And here I am right now because this is a priority and I didn't want to take the call on the bus or anything like that,
We all fought something. We all fought for our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So, when you're trying to be there even for others on a good note, you're not going to be potentially and optimally yourself if you're going to be drained and tired and sleeping in between, a simple conversation, because coffee doesn't help. Is there anything that you want to share before I go into, you want to expose something today? Like, did you have a situation where you had to, put
Me?
up a boundary? Yeah.
Today?
Yeah. Or yesterday, whatever.
No, I'm just thinking like, again, if we're talking about this meeting, then my only boundary today regarding that was saying because I was celebrating with family. So I just said, I don't mind if I stay an extra day with family or if I go home, as long as I'm available to be on the meeting by 4. So that was my only thing. And I don't know if that was a big boundary setting, but for me, that was just like saying, I can be flexible to a certain point, but then this is holy. So then this I need.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
No, seriously, alhamdulillah, even since yesterday, the boundaries, they're working. People are going to start not liking me because even yesterday, I was so tired too. I was done and somebody wanted to hang out and I was like, I'm just so tired. And I was like, they even said, do what you want to do. Oh, I'm going home to sleep. That's why I'm up early. So alhamdulillah, like that's okay. So it's just like putting whatever I need first. Oh my gosh, I don't do that at all.
Mhm.
I almost cut this call off. Oh my gosh. This is good.
Yeah,
This is good.
definitely. And you just said something very key. You said, whatever I need. So then if you don't know your need, then you can't determine, and everything and anything goes. So on our weekly meditation that we do on Wednesday, our time morning, last Wednesday, my particular embodiment part was about because of a discussion I had with a friend, and it was about dharma and karma. So just particularly about dharma, it's like, what is your calling? And if you don't know your calling / need, you're not in alignment, and then you don't have boundaries because you're like, whatever, and then you just have a life just running haphazardly, and you're on the go, you're on the call all the time. So you don't have time for yourself, and you can't be really, I don't know how optimally present you can be for others if you're just sort of haphazard. So then boundaries help us create alignment, but if we don't know what we want, we can't create the boundaries. So I think prior to boundaries, we need to know. So they could be rooted in beliefs. They could be rooted in a religious sort of belief. They could be rooted in I don't know, your personal comfort zone. You know, like kids, for example, they don't like it when you come this close to them and you're speaking to them because there's a personal boundary. And if you invade that, there's something that human beings naturally repel, they just back off a bit. So I noticed that even when I'm sitting like across somebody in a coffee meet or something, you know, and I've been asked to sit right next to someone, I'd be like, no, I want to face you and I want to be across you so I can see you. And it's not necessarily about, so for me, like it works better that way. I'm not comfortable in communication if someone's right here. I'd rather just speak across. Then I can't really express myself if I just appease what they want as opposed to what I want. So I'm gonna go on and read something. This is not thematic, this poem, or it could be because everything is subjective. So I just basically opened up a Hafiz poem on any random page. So let's see what it brings forth and how we can connect this reading to boundaries. That lamp that needs no oil. I have made the journey into nothing. I have lit that lamp that needs no oil. I have cried great streams of emerald crystals on my scarred knees, begging love. To never again let me hear from any world the sound of my own name, even from the voice of divine thought, or see that pen you gave me, God, in the sun's or sky's skillful handwriting, anything other than the word one. I have made the journey into nothing. I have become that flame that needs no fuel. Beloved, now what need is there to ever call for Hafiz? For if you did, I would just step out of you. Beloved, now what need is there to ever call for Hafiz? For if you did, I would just step out of you. So what we'll do is we'll give it 10 minutes to pen something that is organically calling upon us. Are we ready?
Not yet.
Okay. Noor or Mehtab, if you have anything you can share.
So I want to share one thing that I've been for a really long time not being able to vent. I mean, the flow just started and it went to, I just suffered the halt and it's now again working. Beloved, I'm at your door, submitting to your call. Better I skip a heartbeat or two or all than miss a breath without your zikr. This is where the line is drawn. Beloved, I submit to you at your beck and call.
I submit to you at your beck and call. I just kind of journaled and then it kind of turned into a poem. And so I took from him the plane that needs no fuel. What will I fill it up with? How can a plane not need a fuel? It is something the mind cannot comprehend. How magical, extraterrestrial to be filled with the deep out of this world, infinite. Extraterrestrial to be filled with the deep infinite out of this world, not of this world. Where will it come from? How do I get it? Where is this fuelless plane? What do I do? Stop in the name of love. Stop in the name of love. I receive you, oh inner energy, deep in, filling up my own space with me and not others. Empty the fuel I have and trust for the unknown to fill it and do what the fuel cannot do. A touch of it will lighten this plane and the plane will never want fuel again. Fuel just won't do and it can't do. Steps toward fuelless planes. Earth fossil fuel instead of the infinite's infinite juice. Infinity's juice. This plane only takes infinity's juice and it will outplane all planes. Be a one-of-a-kind plane, they will ask. Is that plane? Is that a plane? Is that a boat? No, that's infinity. And that's
Mashallah.
I actually wrote one more.
Yes, by all means. Come on.
Okay. Keep writing. Take the time, make the time, put in line and take out the lines that cross my path, that adds intersections and takes me off my path into unknown territories till I have to use up my time to get back on my own line. In line, on my road, looking around, not being a part of the around, observing, reaching over just enough to help but not overextend where it takes me off my line. Now, with this infinity juice, I could do flips on my line and send my power and energy without taking it from me. Infinity juice.
That's amazing. Good reminders.
Without taking it from me. Wow.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nice when we can separate what is coming to and through us and what is really from within and what is really from within. Everything's coming from the eternal reservoir. Do you want to share yours?
All right. You have to be fully open to me if you want me to be fully open to you. Don't ask me to be borderless, filterless, and then cling to the walls that separate us. Why are you the only one who gets to set boundaries? Love requires a full surrender. Maybe I was weak to not stay open. I was afraid my heart would bleed dry. And you said my heart was the most precious thing you ever knew. Why would you not want to keep it and keep me closer than close to you at all times? If you cannot live for me fully, how do you expect me to live for you? One means one. There is no other. There is no other. I will expand for you beyond any known borders. Just don't ask me to do it alone.
I have a quote here. Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. Sometimes when we set boundaries, it's not necessarily to create a separation, but perhaps to go into a more healthy and deeper relationship with somebody, which leads us to removing boundaries eventually. I'll volunteer to read what I have penned. When I forgot myself, I became oblivious to purpose. Finding myself, my highest self, I found my calling, or I find my calling. The doing and being this very moment is where I need to be. So I utter labbaik. This is my adhan. This is my adhan, the dharmic call to submit to the moment. Daughters and sons of time, immersed in worship, through do and be and do. This is life. Without this knowing, how would I hear my mu'adhin? How would I act upon this call without boundaries? If I let all sounds in, all visitors in, please take a seat and wait so I may serve you with ihsan on your turn. Recall Abraham, his call. All takes care. All matters take care. Forget that line, it's gotta go. Everything takes care of itself, albeit in the heart of a barren desert. A babe cries, a fountain gushes forth. Hagar's exemplary sacrifice, in canons of history, the house is made for eternity, for eternal remembrance. And had the winds swept over hearts, perhaps we would have no Mecca, no Becca, perhaps no foundation to build the holy Kaaba. Verily, boundaries were set against forces of resistance, hence the pelting at Jamarat. There's no necessary, these no's necessary for the greater good. Hence, you'll be okay when I leave. Hence, we will survive. And what I mean by that is the conversation between Abraham and Hajra. Now, in respect to, struggles in setting boundaries, is there any particular boundary that calls upon us often as a pattern, and because we're not setting that boundary, then we face some sort of regret or an unpleasant sort of state? Like, for example, people take pride in serving others, even at the cost of their own sort of everything. And that could lead to like a burnout situation, because if we're constantly in that, service mode, which, may cause us to ignore and neglect ourselves, then the possibility of a burnout you know, or the lack of balance in that sort of way of serving would result to like a total shutdown / burnout. So is there anything particular that, you know, that you would like to work on in terms of setting boundaries so you can be aligned and you can, you know, have that balance?
I wrote down time. So I have a time issue where I give people my time instead of giving it to my business, which that's what I need to be investing in, because that's important to me. That's my livelihood. And that's actually, I'm doing the work that I do. Like my body physically needs to give massages. It physically, my hands physically, they have to give it. So because I don't do that, I do have a lack of balance. And so I'm not really burned out. I am, is it burnout when I need to regenerate? I need to stop and regenerate so I can do what I have to do for myself. That's a burnout.
Well, I mean, technically, anytime when you're basically like, you're just exhausted, you've come to a sort of like a dead end. And maybe, you know, even if it's something worthy, and then you just can't go on further anymore because of the sort of lack of balance and self. Yeah.
And I'm 29, and really that's the story of my life. Lack of balance. Another boundary I have is, or I want to have, is responding. So it's always like someone expecting a certain response, and or I have to say something back, or I really don't have anything to say right now, and someone's, whoever it is, they're waiting for me to say something. So I'm pulling from nowhere, pulling from lies, pulling from, you know, fake, like just pulling from not me, so I can like present something. So I'm always constantly like, everyone's looking to say something. It's like, even though I talk a lot, right now I have nothing to say. So I end up saying stuff. So I don't know where, I wrote that down because I don't know where to give boundaries in that aspect.
Well, I mean, just the fact that you're aware of that, because a lot of people just babble on, and they're not even checking in to see that, you know, have they said anything that's really coming from their heart space, or is it just for the sake of talking and filling in the blanks? So when you have really nothing to say, maybe it's just the wise way to say, you know what, let me ponder, reflect, and if something comes forth, I will respond or comment or whatever on it, share. And then you're basically saying, and perhaps nothing may come, therefore I shut up. You know, I'm going to zip it up, and then just be unapologetic about it. I think we're kind of scared when we're treading or leading a life of being unapologetic, because we feel that, you know what, it's going to create a lot of distancing, and because we're just being it so raw with ourselves, with our needs, and with we're being very vulnerable, truthful to our core. And when we're truthful to our core, it's going to really do the whole shift, meaning it's going to sift the people. You'll end up, because when we're true to the haq inside us, then it's only going to just bring forth people on that vibration to be with us. We want the 72 loyal people and not the 4,000, you know, fools, you know. It's not about quantity, it's all about quality. And that's what we want out of life. We want those, you know, 3 loyal people throughout our life max, then like a bunch of, I don't know, like millions of supposed friends who never turn up, you know, who never turn up, who never show up. So that's not a result because life treated you that way. It's a result because we treated ourselves so pathetically, and we weren't true to our core, because we're so imbalancedly, like we're imbalanced in our empathy and our sympathy. So one issue I have is the sympathetic factor. I suddenly, you know, detect issues with others and I want to help and I commit to helping, but to a point where, you know, I have to know my limitations and I want to go all out in helping. And then that creates an imbalance in my, you know, in my world. And then that creates issues, and then I can't really do much. So yeah, you've got to have, like, if you have sympathy, it has to be, you've got to have sympathy for yourself. Otherwise, it's not authentic sympathy for others anyways. So the first and foremost is yourself, and it's not living from a selfish place, but I think it's more about living more authentically and then knowing your own limitations and just saying, you know, this is what I can do, this is what I can't. So you won't create like false promises, you won't regret it, you won't feel guilty, and the whole spectrum of whatever. So it's better to be unapologetic. Yeah, unapologetic, and just be true to yourself in your way of conducting yourself and being. Because the true ones will never leave you if they're true. What are you worried about? Because it's like they are you. The people in your life, if they're true, they should be mirrors, and you're not going to leave yourself. So then those real people will not leave you. Simple. We want unconditional love in our life. Whoever is not on that frequency, yes, we can be polite, maybe, in how we choose to decline or refuse something. It doesn't have to be abrupt and abrasive. And that's what spirituality teaches us, adab, and just be honest. But at the same time, we have to keep, you know, we have to check in with our heart and ourselves.
Yeah, and there's this one thing I want to say to Noor as well. Like, her job is for doing the massages, right? You're taking burden off people, right? So it's very important for you, like you doubly important for you that you take care of yourself. And whenever you're doing massages, it's always be in the wuzu state so that your energy is intact. Because this is the lesson that I learned from Sheikh Mujan. That's why I wanted to impart, and not from me, but yeah, because they say when you're touching, you're obviously giving them the energy. That's why you get like depleted. So just whenever during your job, stay in wuzu. That's one thing that coming to you.
You said doing my job is what? What was the last part?
The job that you do, right? That your energy, like the people that are coming to you, they want to get you relaxed, and that you're providing that to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and we are energetic beings, and energy is transfers from one body to another, and that's why we sometimes feel depleted. So, Sheikh Nurjan says when you're in state of wudu, like you're in your, you have done the ablution, that will secure your energy. So don't, yeah, just keep yourself secure as a person that way.
Thank you.
And I do teaching, and when I teach, so I have to talk a lot. So I feel depleted as well. So what I do is I don't sit in the staff room. I sit in the library so that I don't have to indulge in more talk. And that
Boundaries within family members, that's another thing, you know. Sometimes we lose the balance, thinking that, you know, for example, responding to a situation, it doesn't have to be immediate, because if you're asked to be of value or guidance or give your feedback on a situation, and if you're not ready to do that, it is okay to say, you know, step out a bit and not necessarily be there all the time. Because sometimes people think, hey, you know, this is blood, and that's it, you know, and we have to give it all. But yeah, maybe this week what we will do is on our poetic divan space, we can pen more about different areas where boundaries can be, further discussed, and how, what are our boundaries, and how, we can basically tweak things, or, set boundaries, and what boundaries mean to us in those areas. So we're going to go into that this week. And we encourage, to pen and to come out of that, so you can explore, even these notions of boundaries in the various dynamics for our relationships that we have. And so, yeah, I think we've, again, going back to boundaries, we had a 1.5 hour sort of, allotted time, and we want to respect that, because going over would mean taking from our own time and then disrespecting other people's time. So we're good at 1.5 hours, and we shall conclude. And of course, we can continue through penning this week. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good, inshallah. So I could pin something on the boundaries, and then I'll post it on the Telegram.
Exactly. And whatever, we give our thought to, that's our, energy will go there. And, there's probably so many areas where we're not really giving a thought on boundaries. I remember somebody, a seeker, messaged me saying that in their culture, like sauna culture is huge. So it's expected, maybe not in the States, but, or, North America, but in European sauna culture, you're expected to not have any clothing on. And it could be mixed, it could be, same gender. And so, the topic on boundaries in that was coming up, just because, it was coming up. So just basic things like that would probably never cross our mind. So if we give it a thought on boundaries, universe will bring forth different areas to talk. So, so yeah, so we can do that. We can pen, and whatever you have penned, then we can, share that. Good.
Inshallah, yay.
Perfect, inshallah. All right.
Okay.
Take care.
You too, have a blessed week.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.